The galaxy was wide and filled with stars that glowed like silver dust scattered across the dark sky. Among those stars lived many worlds where both humans and aliens tried to build homes, farms, and cities. Yet in this wide space there was one name that could silence a crowded hall the moment it was spoken. That name was the Emperor Dragon. The Emperor Dragon was not like any normal beast. Its body was larger than the tallest human tower. Its wings could stretch from one end of a city to the other. Its breath could melt steel and turn whole ships into glowing fire. Even the strongest fleets trembled at the thought of facing it. The creature was not just strong, it was also clever. It did not strike at random. It chose targets that mattered. Colonies, mining stations, and even patrol fleets had fallen to its rage. Stories spread quickly from one system to another. Some told of the dragon flying across space as if it swam through the void like water. Some told of its scales glowing red like burning stars. Some spoke of the roar that traveled through space in strange waves that made machines fail. No matter how the stories were told, one truth remained. The Emperor Dragon was a nightmare that no weapon could end. In a small corner of the galaxy, there was a repair station where a young human mechanic named Ryan worked. He was not a soldier, not a leader, not a captain. He was only a man who fixed what was broken. Ryan spent most of his days repairing engines, patching broken hull plates, and welding wires that sparked in the dim light of the workshop. His hands were always covered in oil, and his face often had a streak of dust across it. Ryan lived a simple life. He listened to the captains and traders who came to the repair station with damaged ships. They always brought news with them. When they spoke of pirates, he listened but did not care much. When they spoke of new trade routes, he listened but did not care much. But when they spoke of the Emperor Dragon, Ryan listened with sharp focus. The other mechanics laughed when the stories came. They said the beast was only a myth told by fearful crews. Some believed the dragon was only a fleet of alien warships that people mistook for a living creature. Some believed it was an old weapon left from forgotten wars. But Ryan did not laugh. He had a habit of staying quiet, letting the words sink deep into his thoughts. One evening, as the repair hall grew quiet, Ryan sat alone beside a broken thruster he had been working on. A group of traders sat at the far side, drinking and telling stories about the dragon again. They spoke of how a whole fleet of 10 battleships had tried to hunt it near the mining world of Ares 9. The dragon had flown through their lines, fire pouring from its mouth. In less than an hour, the battleships were nothing but drifting metal. No crew survived. Ryan tightened a bolt and kept listening. His mind was not filled with fear, but with questions. Why did the dragon always attack mining worlds? Why did it never destroy farming colonies or small trade outposts? Why was it that in every story, the dragon roared in strange waves that caused machines to fail before it struck? The next day, while others laughed at the tales, Ryan walked to the data center. He asked the keeper there for old records of dragon sightings. The keeper raised an eyebrow and asked why a mechanic needed such things. Ryan simply said he was curious. The keeper gave him the files with a shrug. Ryan spent days reading the records. He saw maps of the paths where the dragon was seen. He read reports from captains who survived by fleeing before the attack. He studied signals that were recorded during the dragon's roar. They were strange, almost like patterns, not just noise. To most people, they were just strange energy waves. To Ryan, they looked like signals waiting to be understood. In the nights when the station was silent, Ryan worked in secret. He built small signal devices using scraps. He tested ways of sending waves back into the air. He wondered if perhaps the dragon was not only a beast but something more. Maybe it was trying to speak in a way no one had ever tried to understand. One evening, as he worked on a broken panel, his friend Mara, another mechanic, came by. She looked at the scattered files on his table. "Still reading about the dragon?" she asked. Ryan nodded. "Yes, these reports do not match the way people talk. They say it is only wild and angry, but the records show patterns. Look here. It attacks mining worlds but never farms. It never strikes without first sending out these strange waves. What if it is not just rage? What if it has a reason?" Mara shook her head. "You are chasing shadows. Dragons eat ships and burn stations. That is reason enough. Stop dreaming and focus on real work. Engines do not fix themselves," but Ryan did not stop. The more he read, the more he believed there was more to the story than fear. Weeks passed, and then came the day when news arrived that the Emperor Dragon had been seen again. This time it attacked near the world of Varen, a mining colony rich with rare crystals. Entire families were forced to flee. The colony sent calls for help, but no fleet dared to answer. Even the strongest captains turned their ships away. The station where Ryan worked was filled with voices that day. People cursed the dragon. They cursed the leaders who sent no help. They cursed the fate of those who lived on Veron. But in Ryan's heart there was no curse. There was only a decision growing stronger. He stood in the hall and looked at the map glowing on the wall. The red light marked where the dragon was last seen. His hands curled into fists. He was only a mechanic, yet he felt he could not stay still. That night he returned to his small quarters and looked at the old ship he had been patching for months. It was not strong. It was not fast. But it was his. He had fixed its broken frame, welded its cracked hull, and replaced its weak engines with ones built from scraps. It was a ship no soldier would ever use, but to Ryan it was home. He looked at the signal device he had built resting on the table. His heart beat hard in his chest. He thought of the miners who fled Veron, of the ships burned, of the dragon circling in the dark sky. He thought of the laughter of the other mechanics who said no human could stand against such a beast. But Ryan whispered to himself, "Machines break and I fix them. Maybe even a dragon is not beyond repair. If no one dares to try, then I will." When the next sun rose above the station, Ryan climbed into his patched ship. He carried tools, data files, and the signal device. His friends watched with shock as he prepared to leave. Mara grabbed his arm and begged him not to go. She said he would only be another story of a man lost to the dragon's fire. But Ryan looked at her with calm eyes. "If everyone fears, then nothing changes. I do not go to fight. I go to listen." The engines roared and his ship lifted into the stars. Behind him the station grew small, and ahead of him the dark void stretched wide. Somewhere in that darkness the Emperor Dragon waited, and Ryan was the first human who chose not to fear it but to try and understand it. The stars stretched endlessly ahead of Ryan as he guided his small ship through the quiet void. The light of distant suns painted silver streaks on the hull. Even though the galaxy was vast and full of dangers, Ryan felt calm. His heart was not filled with fear but with curiosity. He was no soldier, no captain, no hero. He was only a mechanic, a man who understood the logic of machines. But perhaps, he thought, that understanding could extend beyond engines and wires, even to a creature like the Emperor Dragon. Ryan spent the first hours checking the systems of his ship. He carefully watched the thrusters, the shields, and the communication arrays. Everything had to be perfect. The galaxy had no mercy for mistakes. He tested the signal device he had built, sending pulses into the empty space. To most it would seem meaningless, but Ryan observed the pattern carefully. He imagined the dragon listening, feeling, noticing the rhythm of his signals. The memory of Veron's burning mines weighed heavily on him. The miners had fled without hope, leaving their homes, their tools, and their dreams behind. Entire families had vanished in the chaos. Fleet after fleet had turned away from the danger. No one wanted to face the dragon. They saw only destruction. Ryan, however, saw something else. In the logs he had studied, he saw precision. He saw intelligence. He saw a creature that was not just a beast of fire, but a being that reacted to patterns, signals, and perhaps even reason. For days, Ryan followed the dragon's recorded paths. He moved slowly, observing asteroid fields, abandoned colonies, and the wrecks of ships left behind by previous attacks. He noted where the dragon had appeared, how it had moved, and how quickly it had left. He wrote his observations in a small digital journal, marking times, distances, and patterns. To an outsider, it might look like obsession. To Ryan, it was preparation. At night, when he shut down the ship to rest, he stared out of the cockpit window at the endless stars. He imagined the dragon flying in the dark, its massive wings cutting through the void. He imagined the fire it could produce and the roar that could shake entire fleets. Yet instead of fear, he felt determination. He was not seeking glory or reward. He was seeking understanding. Ryan's journey was not without challenges. Asteroid belts forced him to navigate with extreme care. Small meteor showers damaged his shields, and radiation burst from distant suns made his sensors flicker. Once he had to repair a broken thruster while floating outside the ship, holding himself with magnetic boots and steady hands. Every repair, every calculation reminded him why he had been a mechanic and why mechanics could do things soldiers often could not. Machines like dragons could break. Machines like dragons could be understood. After weeks of travel, Ryan reached the edge of the sector where the dragon had last been seen. He slowed the ship, scanning for energy patterns. His instruments picked up faint heat waves and unusual electromagnetic signals. The patterns matched the recordings he had studied. His heart raced. The Emperor Dragon was near. Ryan activated the signal device. It emitted a low-frequency pulse, one that he hoped the dragon could perceive. He adjusted the timing, the intensity, and the direction. For hours, he observed. Nothing happened at first. Then slowly, a shadow moved against the stars. A glint of scales, long wings stretching behind, and eyes that reflected distant suns. The dragon had appeared. It circled a broken asteroid cluster with grace that seemed impossible for a creature so massive. Its scales shimmered in the starlight, and its roar, though silent across the void, sent vibrations through Ryan's ship. The pulse of the dragon's presence was like the beat of a living planet. Ryan felt it in his chest. He steadied his hands and continued sending signals, careful not to startle the beast. Hours passed. The dragon approached closer, then receded, testing the signals, perhaps studying him in return. Ryan realized that understanding a creature like this required patience. Aggression would fail. Bravery alone was not enough. He needed calm precision and observation. He adjusted his signals based on the dragon's movement, trying patterns that matched the rhythms he had recorded in the logs. That night, Ryan used the ship's external cameras to record the dragon. He noticed scars along its wings and body. Each scar told a story of battle, struggle, and survival. He realized the creature was not invincible. It was strong, yes, but not without pain. The same way he repaired broken machines, perhaps he could repair trust, connection, and communication with this beast. He ate little, drank little, and slept even less. The vastness of space offered no distraction from his task. Yet, despite the exhaustion, he felt alive. Each small movement of the dragon, each slight shift in its flight gave him information. Each pattern that repeated confirmed his belief. The Emperor Dragon was not a mindless destroyer. It had logic, intention, and perhaps even a code that could be learned. As days passed, Ryan began testing a bold idea. He approached closer than any human had dared. He hovered near the edge of a shattered moon cluster, letting the dragon pass by. He sent signals in sequences, imitating what he believed were forms of recognition and respect. At first, the dragon ignored him. Then it hesitated, circling slowly, observing him. Ryan's hands shook as he adjusted the ship's position, making sure he was neither threatening nor too distant. The dragon's massive eyes seemed to track every movement. Ryan remembered the logs of other encounters where captains had attacked first and failed. He realized that unlike those who fought, he had a chance because he was patient and careful. One moment changed everything. The dragon roared in space, a deep vibration that rattled Ryan's instruments. The pulse was stronger than before, but instead of attacking, the dragon shifted its flight pattern. Following the signals more closely, Ryan felt a rush of hope. Perhaps, he thought, the dragon understood that he meant no harm. He spent the next several hours in this careful dance. Each movement of the ship was mirrored by a response from the dragon. Ryan adjusted, recalculated, and repeated the sequence. The connection, though fragile, was forming. The mechanic realized that this was not about taming the dragon in the traditional sense. This was about respect, understanding, and building trust. Ryan thought about the other humans who had faced the dragon. All had relied on weapons, fleets, and fear. None had tried to listen. None had tried to understand. He smiled quietly to himself. Perhaps being a mechanic was exactly what he needed to face a dragon. Mechanics did not rely on brute force. Mechanics studied, observed, and repaired. Mechanics found solutions where others saw only problems. By the end of the second week, the dragon began to hover closer. It circled him without aggression. Its eyes followed him. Its wings moved with silent power, and the scars on its body told a story of survival. Ryan realized that he was no longer just observing. He was interacting. He was communicating without words, using signals, gestures, and patience. Ryan recorded every movement, every vibration, every reaction. He knew that this was only the beginning. The dragon was massive, powerful, and intelligent. Any mistake could end his life. Yet he did not fear. He felt a strange kinship. Both he and the dragon were survivors. Both had endured harsh environments. Both had been underestimated. Finally, as another starlit night passed, Ryan allowed himself to rest. He floated in his cockpit, looking out at the dragon circling silently near the asteroid field. For the first time, he felt a sense of hope. He had begun to understand. He had begun to connect, and most importantly, he knew that his journey had only just started. Rian whispered to himself, as he often did, "I am no soldier, no captain, no hero. I am a mechanic, and maybe that is enough." The galaxy outside was quiet, but in the distance the Emperor Dragon moved like a shadow of fire and scales. Somewhere between fear and understanding, trust was beginning to form. And Rian knew that patience, observation, and courage were the keys to bridging the gap between human and legend. With the pulse of signals continuing through space, the mechanic felt a bond forming, fragile but undeniable. He knew the path ahead would be dangerous, filled with trials, but he also knew that this time, he was not alone. Rian had taken the first step, and the Emperor Dragon had noticed. The void of space stretched endlessly around Rian's small ship, dark and silent except for the hum of his engines and the soft beeping of his instruments. After days of careful observation, the dragon had begun to respond to his signals. It did not attack, it did not flee. It circled, watching as if considering the tiny human who dared follow it. Rian's heart pounded in his chest. He had prepared for this moment, yet nothing could fully capture the reality of facing the Emperor Dragon. Its massive wings cut through space like living sails of fire. Its scales glimmered with colors he had never seen, a mixture of molten gold, deep crimson, and silver that reflected starlight like a mirror. Every movement was precise, powerful, and terrifying. He adjusted the signal device once more, sending a pattern of pulses that mimicked the rhythm of the dragon's previous movements. For hours he observed, learning its pace, its curiosity, and its intelligence. Unlike the reports from other humans, the dragon did not act recklessly. It had logic, it had awareness, and it had memory. Rian realized that any misstep could end his life, yet the thought of fleeing never crossed his mind. The first test came unexpectedly. A meteor shower appeared from a distant cloud of debris. Rian had been so focused on the dragon that he had not noticed the small rocks moving at incredible speed. The sensors beeped warning signals. Instinctively, he maneuvered the ship, twisting and spinning through the debris. One rock scraped against the hull, leaving a streak of sparks, but the ship held. The dragon reacted. It twisted its massive body, creating a powerful wind from its wings that sent the smaller meteors veering off course. Rian watched in awe. The dragon had not attacked. It had protected the path, almost as if it understood the danger and was guiding him safely. His heart surged with excitement and caution. This was more than observation. This was interaction. Over the next few hours, Rian began to understand subtle gestures in the dragon's flight. It was not random. Certain movements signaled curiosity. Others showed caution. When it hovered low near a small asteroid, its tail coiled gently, creating a wave of force that pushed debris aside. When it circled high, the pattern of its wings reflected speed and focus. Rian mirrored some of these movements with his ship, small adjustments, careful nudges, trying to communicate that he was not a threat. He began experimenting with the signal device again. This time he added small bursts of light and vibration through the ship's hull. The dragon responded. It shifted closer, narrowing the distance between them. Its massive eyes glowed like molten stars, examining him, calculating, considering. The fear that had gripped so many humans before him was absent. He only felt wonder and focus. Then, unexpectedly, the dragon roared. The sound did not carry through space the same way it would on a planet, but the energy waves struck Rian's ship. Systems flickered. Lights dimmed. Instruments beeped warnings of fluctuating energy levels. Rian gritted his teeth, holding the controls steady. He realized that the roar was not meant to destroy. It was a test. The dragon was gauging him, measuring his reactions, deciding if he was worth observing further. Rian took a deep breath and maintained calm. He sent a careful sequence of signals back through the device, matching the intensity and rhythm of the roar. Minutes passed. The dragon circled slowly, wings extended, powerful yet controlled. It lowered its head slightly, a gesture that seemed deliberate. Rian felt a shiver of awe. The creature was enormous, intelligent, and aware, yet it allowed him to remain close. He had passed the first test. Days turned into a careful dance of movements, signals, and observation. Rian floated near asteroid clusters, adjusting his ship to avoid appearing threatening. The dragon followed, sometimes close enough that he could feel the subtle gravitational shifts from its massive body. He began to notice patterns in its behavior. Certain maneuvers seemed to indicate trust, Others indicated caution. Still others hinted at curiosity, a desire to understand the human pilot as much as the human sought to understand it. One night, as Ryan adjusted his sensors to capture the dragon's wing movement, he noticed something strange. Tiny fragments of metal and debris were caught in the folds of its scales. Previous battles, collisions, and attacks had left marks. He realized the creature was wounded in ways no human had ever seen. A small piece of jagged metal could be removed safely, he thought. If he could repair even minor injuries, perhaps he could deepen the trust. But approaching was dangerous. The dragon's claws could crush a ship easily. Its tail could smash asteroids like pebbles. Its wings could generate winds strong enough to throw him into deep space. Ryan prepared carefully. He calibrated the external thrusters. He adjusted the magnetic clamps on his suit. He powered up the repair tools he had designed specifically for this moment. Every detail mattered. As he slowly extended outside the ship, tethered to a magnetic cable, he saw the dragon in full glory. It hovered near a shattered asteroid, its massive eyes fixed on him. The scars along its body glimmered in the starlight. The jagged metal lodged in its wing was dangerous, yet the dragon did not move aggressively. It was still observing, waiting for him to act. Ryan's hands worked quickly but carefully. He reached the embedded fragment and began to manipulate it, using tools to pry it free without causing further harm. Every movement was deliberate, every adjustment precise. The dragon's massive eyes followed him closely. The energy waves that rolled from its body were strong but steady. It seemed to understand he was not trying to harm it. After tense moments, Ryan removed the last piece of metal. The dragon shifted its wings slightly, testing movement. There was no pain flare, no sudden attack, only a slight tilt of its head, an acknowledgement that the work had been successful. Ryan's heart leapt. He had made the first real physical contact with the Emperor Dragon and lived to tell it. He floated back toward his ship, carefully unhooking the magnetic cable. The dragon lowered its massive head closer to the hull, examining him. Ryan realized that trust had been formed, fragile yet undeniable. He had not tamed the dragon with force or weapons. He had communicated with patience, observation, and careful action. The legend of the untouchable beast was now shifting in the presence of one human. Over the following days, Ryan refined this interaction. He sent signals, adjusted his maneuvers, and practiced careful approaches. The dragon began to anticipate his moves, adjusting its flight to match. It followed him through asteroid fields, around small moons, and across debris clouds. Ryan noted that it was no longer merely observing him. It was interacting, responding, and engaging in a rhythm that seemed almost conversational. At one point, he tested a small experiment. He powered down the ship's main engines and floated in place, sending only signal pulses. The dragon circled him almost slowly, wings spread, tail coiled, eyes glowing. It hovered near him, moving its head in slight patterns that mirrored his signals. Ryan felt a deep surge of connection. This was no longer simply a mechanical study. This was mutual recognition. He realized the danger was still present. One wrong move, one miscalculation could end his life instantly. Yet he no longer felt fear in the usual way. He felt respect, focus, and understanding. The galaxy outside was filled with the unknown, but he had discovered something extraordinary, a link between human and beast, born not of force but of patience, observation, and courage. As he floated in the dark, watching the dragon glide gracefully through the void, Ryan whispered quietly, almost to himself, "You are magnificent, and maybe, just maybe, we can understand each other." The Emperor Dragon let out a low, vibrating sound, a kind of acknowledgement in the language of motion, signals, and presence. Ryan smiled, knowing the first true step had been taken. From that moment onward, he realized his journey was only beginning. The dragon was massive, intelligent, and unpredictable. The galaxy had feared it for centuries. Yet Ryan knew that one human, armed not with weapons but with knowledge, patience, and courage, could make a connection that fleets could not. And so in the endless dark of space, a mechanic and a legendary beast began a dance of trust, signaling the start of an extraordinary story that would change the galaxy forever. The void of space stretched endlessly around Ryan as he followed the Emperor Dragon through shattered asteroids and drifting debris. Each movement of the dragon was a display of strength and grace. Its massive wings created gusts that pushed smaller asteroids aside. Its tail moved with precision, avoiding any collision while keeping an invisible rhythm that Ryan was slowly learning to follow. Ryan adjusted his small ship to keep pace. He had been observing the dragon for days, learning patterns and signals. Yet this part of the journey felt different. The dragon was leading him somewhere. Its flight was purposeful, as if it had chosen a place to show him or test him. Ryan tightened his grip on the controls, careful not to startle the creature, careful not to appear threatening. Soon, they reached a cluster of shattered moons. Large fragments of rock floated in slow orbit around one another. Among the jagged surfaces, Ryan could see evidence of destruction: craters, burnt surfaces, and twisted metal from old mining stations. It was clear that the Emperor Dragon had been here before, perhaps defending territory or striking intruders. The area was dangerous, yet the dragon moved through it with ease. Ryan followed, his eyes scanning for anything that could endanger him. He noticed a pattern in the dragon's movements. It would hover near larger debris, then circle around smaller fragments, almost like it was clearing a path for him. Ryan realized the creature was aware of his limitations. It was testing him, seeing if he could navigate without panic, if he could keep calm under pressure. Then he saw the dragon's wings shimmer with a bright glow. A fragment of metal, sharp and jagged, was lodged deep in the wing membrane. Ryan's heart quickened. He had studied the dragon's scars and injuries before, but this one was dangerous. If left alone, it could tear further, causing the dragon pain or limiting its flight. Yet approaching it would be the most dangerous act he had ever attempted. One mistake, one sudden movement, and the dragon could destroy him with a single swipe. He prepared carefully. The ship's engines hummed softly as he adjusted his position. Magnetic clamps were fastened to his suit. The repair tools were powered and ready. He took a deep breath and reminded himself of what he had learned: patience, observation, and respect. This was not about taming. It was about trust. Ryan slowly exited the ship, tethered to a magnetic cable. The vastness of space surrounded him, but he focused only on the task ahead. The dragon hovered near a large asteroid, its wings spread wide. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, watching him intently. Ryan moved cautiously toward the injured wing. The metal shard protruded sharply, glinting under starlight. He approached slowly, hand steady, breathing calm. The dragon remained still. It did not strike. It did not roar. Its massive body seemed to communicate a single message: proceed if you dare, but do not falter. Ryan's hands worked carefully, using tools to pry the shard free without causing further injury. The dragon's wings shifted slightly, a subtle test of his resolve. Minutes passed, each one feeling like an hour. Ryan's heart beat steadily, but his mind was fully focused. One small mistake could end everything. He adjusted the angle of his tools, slowly easing the shard from the wing. The dragon's massive eyes never left him. Then finally the metal came free. Ryan let out a quiet breath. The wing shifted smoothly, no pain flared. The dragon had allowed him to succeed. He stepped back, floating in zero gravity, and observed the creature. It circled slowly, wings extended, tail coiled, eyes glowing softly. The dragon was no longer merely cautious. It was acknowledging him. Ryan realized that the act of helping the dragon had strengthened the fragile trust between them. The creature had allowed him close, had accepted his help, and had survived. Over the following days, Ryan continued his careful interaction. He moved through asteroid clusters, sending signal pulses, observing the dragon's responses. Each adjustment in flight and signal strengthened their connection. The dragon began to anticipate his movements, matching its own flight with his. It hovered closer, allowed him to approach, and responded to signals with subtle changes in wing position and body movement. Ryan also began studying the dragon's behavior more deeply. He noticed how it rested near certain asteroids, how it circled slowly over damaged areas, and how it used its wings to create wind patterns that shifted debris. He realized the creature was not only intelligent but strategic. It had survived countless attacks and understood the environment better than any human. One critical moment came when a small asteroid suddenly broke free from the cluster, tumbling toward Ryan at high speed. Instinctively, he adjusted his thrusters, but the dragon reacted faster. It moved its massive body, creating a barrier with its wing and tail that redirected the asteroid away from him. The energy wave pushed him slightly, but his magnetic clamps held firm. He realized that the dragon was now protecting him, just as he had aided it. This moment marked a turning point. Ryan no longer felt like a lone mechanic in the void. He felt like a partner, part of a team with a creature that had been feared for centuries. He understood that trust worked both ways. The dragon had accepted his presence and had begun to consider him an ally, not a threat. Rian continued to repair minor injuries and remove debris from the dragon's body. Each successful repair strengthened their bond. He spoke softly, though the dragon could not hear words in space. He used gestures, movements, and signals to communicate respect and intention. The dragon responded in kind, circling closer, lowering its massive head and shifting wings to guide him. During one quiet moment, Rian floated near the dragon's head, looking into its glowing eyes. He felt a connection deeper than observation or study. He felt recognition. This was not just a creature responding to a human. It was a being that had chosen to allow him near, to interact, and to trust him. The realization filled Rian with awe and humility. The galaxy outside remained vast and silent. Yet within this small space, a bond had formed. The mechanic and the Emperor Dragon, one human and one legendary creature, had begun a relationship built on understanding, patience, and courage. Neither dominated the other. Both respected and observed. Both learned from the other. Rian knew the journey ahead would not be easy. The galaxy had enemies, fleets that would attack without understanding. Other humans might fear the dragon and try to harm it. The dragon itself could still be unpredictable. Yet he also knew that the first true step had been taken. Trust had been built. Understanding had begun. And with this bond, they could face the challenges ahead together. As he returned to his ship after another repair session, Rian looked out at the dragon circling near the asteroid cluster. Its wings spread wide, tail coiled gracefully, eyes glowing with intelligence. He whispered quietly, almost to himself, "We have started something new. You have chosen to let me see you, and I will not betray that trust." The dragon let out a low, resonant vibration, a response that Rian interpreted as acknowledgement. He felt a surge of hope. For the first time in history, a human had not only survived close contact with the Emperor Dragon, but had earned its trust. The feat was not glory or conquest. It was patience, observation, and courage that had bridged the gap between legend and reality. As Rian floated back into the ship, he prepared for the next stage of the journey. The galaxy awaited, full of dangers and unknowns. Fleets might arrive, curious or hostile. Other creatures might appear, but with trust established, he knew that he and the dragon could face the challenges together. He activated the engines, following the dragon as it led him deeper into the shattered moons. Each movement of the dragon guided his own. Each signal he sent was mirrored in return. The connection was fragile, yet it was growing stronger every day. And so, the trial of trust continued. The dragon tested him. He tested himself. Together they explored the broken worlds, navigating dangers, repairing injuries, and learning to move as one. The galaxy had feared the Emperor Dragon for centuries, but now, one human had taken the first step toward understanding a legend. Rian looked forward, toward the endless stars, toward the unknown challenges, and toward the bond that had begun with courage, patience, and respect. He knew that the story was far from over. The dragon had accepted him, and now, the galaxy would witness the true power of trust between human and beast. The galaxy was watching, though few realized it yet. News traveled slowly through the stars, carried by traders and freighters. Tales of a mechanic daring to follow the Emperor Dragon reached ears filled with disbelief. Many thought it was a legend, impossible for a single human to face a creature feared by fleets. Yet Rian knew the truth. He had not faced it with weapons. He had faced it with understanding, patience, and courage. The dragon led him to a quiet sector far from inhabited colonies. Here asteroids glowed faintly in the light of distant suns. Space was calm, yet the air, if it could be called that, was thick with energy from the dragon. Its wings created subtle waves, shifting particles in the void. Rian adjusted the ship to follow its path. Every movement of the dragon was precise, careful, and deliberate. It was a dance of power and awareness. Rian checked his ship's instruments, ensuring the signal devices were functioning correctly. He had learned the patterns of the dragon's energy, its responses to pulses, and how to communicate without frightening it. He had also learned to read its mood and the subtle vibrations of its wings and tail. Each day brought new understanding, and with understanding came trust. That calm was broken when distant engines roared through the void. A fleet appeared, several ships in formation approaching quickly. Rian recognized them from transmission logs. They were mercenaries, hired by a mining corporation that had lost resources to the dragon's attacks. They did not seek dialogue. Their mission was simple: destroy the creature. Rian's heart raced, but he stayed calm. He knew the dragon could fight them, but he also knew it was not reckless. He activated the ship's signal device and sent pulses to the dragon. It responded immediately, hovering close, wings spread, tail coiled for balance. Ryan realized this was the moment where their bond would be tested. The fleet opened fire. Blasts of energy and projectiles lit the darkness. Ryan's ship dodged debris and weapons with careful maneuvers. The dragon roared, sending a shockwave through space. The projectiles shifted course as the energy wave hit them. The dragon's massive body moved with precision, circling the attackers, creating barriers and protecting Ryan from harm. The fleet had underestimated the intelligence and strategy of the creature. Ryan acted as well. He sent precise signals to the dragon, guiding its movements while avoiding direct confrontation. The beast listened, moving with calculated force. Together they formed a pattern of defense, each action complementing the other. The fleet was powerful, but the combination of human strategy and dragon intelligence was something they could not predict. Hours passed in a tense battle of strategy and motion. Ryan adjusted his ship constantly, sending pulses, guiding, and observing. The dragon moved as if it understood his intentions, responding to subtle cues. One by one, the enemy ships were forced to retreat or were disabled by the dragon's calculated maneuvers. Ryan marveled at the creature's intelligence. It was not destruction for its own sake. It was careful, controlled, and precise. When the last ship fled, Ryan exhaled. He floated in zero gravity, heart pounding but not with fear. The dragon hovered near him, wings extended, head lowered slightly as if acknowledging his courage and coordination. They had survived together. They had faced the challenge not with brute force alone, but with understanding, trust, and strategy. In the days that followed, Ryan and the dragon explored the surrounding sectors. He continued to remove small injuries, adjust debris stuck to its wings, and observe its behavior. They discovered new asteroid clusters, hidden relics from old civilizations, and energy patterns in space that Ryan noted carefully. Each day their bond grew stronger. The dragon allowed him closer than ever before, trusting him not only with its wings and tail but with its movements through the void. Ryan also began to experiment with communication. He adjusted signal pulses into small sequences, testing the dragon's reactions. The creature responded with subtle wing gestures, tail movements, and vibrations. It was as if they were speaking in a language older than humans, one built on rhythm, energy, and motion. Each successful interaction deepened their understanding and connection. Then came the moment Ryan had long prepared for. A message arrived from the mining colonies. They were willing to negotiate if someone could control the dragon. The galaxy, they said, could not risk further destruction. Ryan realized the opportunity was greater than survival. He could prove that humans and legends could coexist not by force but by understanding. He approached the dragon slowly, keeping calm and steady. He sent pulses, gestured, and moved carefully. The dragon circled him, observing. It lowered its massive head, allowing him to touch its scales near the wing base. Ryan's hands worked gently, adjusting the small injuries, signaling that he was neither threat nor hunter. The dragon allowed it. The moment was historic. A human had reached trust with a creature considered untamable. Ryan's mind raced. He thought of the galaxy, of fleets, of colonies. He realized that if he could maintain this bond, the Emperor Dragon could become a guardian rather than a terror. He began testing coordination exercises, guiding the dragon to move through asteroid clusters, signaling it to respond to his maneuvers. The beast moved with precision, responding to each pulse, each motion as if acknowledging its choice to work alongside him. Weeks passed, and stories began to spread. Traders spoke of a human mechanic and a massive dragon flying in perfect harmony through dangerous sectors. They spoke of a bond that defied fear, that replaced destruction with trust. The galaxy listened, slowly realizing that the legend of the untamable beast was changing. Ryan felt a sense of pride, but not arrogance. He understood that trust was fragile and required constant care. He continued observing the dragon's behavior, repairing minor injuries and refining their communication. The creature had allowed him to enter a world no human had ever entered. That trust was a responsibility he would carry for as long as he lived. One day, while navigating near a nebula filled with colorful gas clouds, the dragon suddenly lifted Rian high above the asteroid cluster. Its wings stretched wide, creating a wind that pushed smaller debris away. Ryan held onto the ship controls, feeling exhilaration as he realized the dragon was showing him something. Its domain, its power, and its choice to include him in it. As they soared, Ryan whispered quietly, "I am only a mechanic. But together, we can change how the galaxy sees you. We can show them trust is stronger than fear." The dragon responded with a low vibration, almost like acknowledgement. It had chosen him, and he had chosen to honor that trust. The final test came when another fleet appeared, larger than the first, with warships carrying heavy weapons. They had come to destroy the dragon once and for all. Rian did not panic. He activated the signal device and guided the dragon with carefully planned pulses. The beast responded, moving in patterns that created barriers, redirected attacks, and neutralized threats without unnecessary destruction. The fleet soon realized that they were facing a being unlike any other. Not only was the dragon powerful, but it acted with intelligence, strategy, and awareness, and it had a human beside it, guiding and coordinating. They retreated, astonished, leaving the galaxy with a new story. The untamable had been reached, understood, and allied with a human. In the quiet that followed, Ryan floated in zero gravity, looking at the dragon hovering beside him. Its massive eyes glowed softly, and its wings stretched wide. He felt a connection deeper than words could describe. He had not tamed the beast with force. He had gained trust, built understanding, and shown courage. The galaxy slowly came to know the story. The Emperor Dragon, feared for centuries, now had a human ally. Traders, scientists, and explorers spoke of the mechanic who had faced fear with patience, who had reached a legendary creature without weapons, and who had proven that courage and understanding could achieve what fleets could not. Ryan continued to travel with the dragon, exploring sectors, avoiding unnecessary conflicts, and protecting colonies. Together they were a symbol that fear could be replaced with trust, that legends could be understood, and that even the most untamable beings could choose to connect with humans who showed respect and patience. And so, in the endless stars, a mechanic and a legendary dragon soared as partners. The galaxy had feared the Emperor Dragon, but one human had changed that. Courage, intelligence, and trust had bridged the gap between myth and reality. Ryan had shown that the untamable could be reached, and that even in the vast, dangerous galaxy, understanding was more powerful than fear.